How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
I want to pick up on pressure because this is, if there's any day that we can speak to how pressure can spread in the dugout, it is a day like this today. Why Ramandeep top edges that full toss for a sweep? Why Rinku gets beaten as good as the bowling might be? What does pressure do in these situations from your own experience?
I think what pressure generally does is it changes your thought process. It brings in a fear of failure, fear of getting out. So you start to think about the number of ways you can get out to a ball. That is what spreads in a batsman or in a dugout, where you are anticipating someone getting out, or you are anticipating a good ball, rather than you're thinking, okay, this ball should have been a 6-4 when you're doing well, when you're confident, when things are going well. You are actually anticipating a boundary, a 6, a 4. You're thinking, oh, he should have hit it here, oh, he should have hit it there. But in situations like that, you know that, oh, a googly can get you an LBW, or there's a slip.
It makes you think, if you can correct me if my thought is right, that instead of Ramandeep sort of wanting to hit straight,
Ramandeep just putting his bat there.
Yeah, he's just seen Rinku deceived.
Yeah.
And he thinks, oh, it's drifted, there's drift and it's dipping. So instead what I'll do is I'll just play a little lap here. Instead of even if a full toss, normally Ramandeep instinctively should be to hit it hard.
I think
but he can't do that now.
Just to sum it up a little bit more, like we were in that World Cup semi-final. I don't ever speak about this, but just for you, I'll speak about it. 1996, that World Cup semi-final against Australia, we should have won, being in that position. And I found what pressure did for me as a player is that you lose your trend of logical thought. Usually you would go in and you'd assess the situation and go through all your processes. This is what I should do because the pitch is doing this, the pitch is doing that. And you're just blinded from doing that. And you have one thing on your mind because you're focusing on the outcome and you forget to go through your processes. This requires a defensive shot because this might be his last over. And all you're thinking is, I'm going to sweep this. You lose your trend of logical thought.
What should happen in a dugout? I'm not saying it did or didn't happen in the KKR dugout. But what should happen in a dugout to try and arrest the collapse?
But at which phase? Which phase? It all happens so fast.
Correct.
So
I think no one talks to each other in a dugout at all when wickets fall, or is there too much talking? Oh, you know what? When now you're going in, now don't take him on. Is that allowed sort of last word? Do people murmur a last word before you go out to say you don't need to hit Chahal, see him out? No, that causes confusion.
No, I think these are the games in which the coach has a bigger role, because that small little sentence or a word before a batsman walks in, to give him clarity, like how to get him off.
Clarity, yes.
Get him off that blindness. Of the consequence. So I think a word or a sentence like it's a wicket where you can take a little bit of time, play straight, good cricketing shots, stitch up a partnership, 10 or 15 runs. Tell Russell that maybe we can see Chahal through and take on the off spinner, or he can play till the 16th over. You hit some good cricketing shots. So I think that's all.
I've seen situations there as well, because it would behoove me if one of the coaches didn't mention something to a couple of guys before they went out to bat. And that pressure, the player says, yes, coach, and it gets out there, and that pressure gets to the player, and he totally forgets the plan that he's supposed to carry out, just goes totally awry. That is what we call pressure.
And also sometimes, what really helps is, dugouts are generally on the ground. But sitting in the dressing room actually helps a lot, because you're not hearing the noise. You're just watching the game on the TV. You are having your own assessment sitting in a different room. Then you walk out, you're sometimes far better off in dealing with pressure. That's what I've seen. I mean, even the teams that we used to, sometimes a lot of people, even we have seen MS Dhoni, we have seen a lot of people sit inside the dressing room. So
In fairness, if this was a high stakes game, maybe batters have that method. But is there a possibility that today at halftime,
I don't.
complacency is a word that comes to mind? Like, oh, okay, Quinton can hit this, Rahane will do it, Rahane will get out, doesn't need to review. I'll save it for the batters, we'll get this done. Venki goes to sweep, Rinku's there, Ramandeep is there, Russell's there, suddenly nobody's there.
I was going to ask as well, this might be a ridiculous question, so correct me if I'm wrong, but with the situation they were in, needing 50 in 12 and a half overs, might net run rate have come into their thoughts where they're thinking, let's get this done quickly rather than
I know
actually
the commentary
win the
brought it
game?
up. The commentary said if 14.1, they chase this down, they go top of the table.
Yeah, and you sort of almost forget to win the game.
I don't think it's a ridiculous question.
No, I don't think so.
It's not a ridiculous question. It's
No,
a very good question.
It's a very good question because people do discuss that, and generally you think about the run rate once you have a good start. I mean, that's been the norm. I mean, in the teams at least that I've played with,
Yeah,
it's never the first thing that comes to a mind.
correct.
So I feel I don't think they would have gone. They've gotten to that discussion yet.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.